one of the questions, though you talked about, the success and the inside story of, the TS, but there's this saying, it said that lack of focus from top management was one of the reasons. Can you dwell into that part of it and tell us what exactly went wrong there?
Okay, so Ruhail is referring to a time in the 1990s and the 2000s when the management attention towards the TAS diminished somewhat. And even though vacancies within the Tata Group arose, many of the vacancies were not filled up by TAS officers. Now this is, I wouldn't call it an aberration, but it did indicate to us that there was a move to bring in a lot more people from the outside. Now that went against the very spirit with which the TAS had been established by J.R.D. Tata. Now this is where I think the group executive council of the Tata Group may have taken the call, and I think this to some extent weakened the TAS in the recent years. But I'm confident that the TAS still maintains the same cachet on campuses. It still remains an important way of getting into the leadership cadre of the Tatas. And despite these little aberrations which happen from time to time in any organization, it still remains a very, very important way to get into the leadership cadres of the Tata Group.
So talking about the cadre of leadership, so we have institutionalized it. We think unless you come from a certain institutionalized way, even in IIM, IIT, you can't be termed as a leader. Is that set in stone? Is that changing? What is the future of leadership like?
Okay, I think this is a very, very good question. I really think, Ruhail, that it's not so much about where you have been educated as much as the qualities that you imbibe. I think the first and foremost quality for any leader, in my view, is a leader has to be emotionally intelligent. I've seen a bunch of extremely capable people who cannot regulate their own emotions and everything is lost. They'll speak harshly, they'll not assess situations, they'll, be extremely, annoyed at the smallest of matters. Such leaders, even though they may be domain experts, will wreck any good organization and therefore have to be kept at an arm's distance. So that's a fundamental requirement. The second important requirement is they have to operate with an ethical mindset. You cannot put the company at risk or yourself at risk by behaving in a way that is illegal or, like was mentioned about some companies in India, which bring the value to zero because of the false the wrong actions or the wrong missteps that may have been taken by leaders. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is, of course, a person has to be self-aware and willing to learn throughout one's life. I think that is a quality that I think leaders need to have, especially in this day and age when everything is so uncertain. You might learn something today and by tomorrow it's not useful anymore because things have changed. So an ability to control your emotions, to regulate your emotions, being emotionally intelligent, having the ability to be ethical, and being a continuous learner at all times is a very, very important requirement. Now, it doesn't really matter where you come from. You could come from the IIMs, the IITs, from St. Stephen's, from LS, MDI, or anywhere, and you could still be a great leader. And I really mean that, because it's not about where you come from as much as are you willing to learn, and are you self-aware enough to know that I have these blemishes and I'm willing to change them for the better.
It will be unfair if I don't get a question from the audience. They have been patiently hearing us. I can take quickly.
There's a hand raised.
Okay, there's a question. Please.
Yeah.
Yes. You can take the mic. Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
The book talks about 10 qualities which are required, right? And you mentioned the 3 more or essential 3. I think, what is it that the leader should not do? If you could point 3 Okay, these are top 3 things which you should not touch or do.
I think a leader must not be swayed by his or her senses. And I this may sound like I'm quoting the Arthashastra, and probably I am, because it figures in ancient texts like that as well. But at the end of the day, emotional regulation is only part of the regulation. A person who can be compromised because that person doesn't have a control on one's senses cannot make a great leader. Regulation is at the heart of leadership. You know, to be able to take a good judgment. You know, this conflict of interest figures as a very common misstep by leaders. What does it really mean? Your heart is so full of the love or God knows what for the other that you cannot dissociate yourself from a decision which is going to be influenced by that person's affection for you or whatever is the relationship. So conflicts of interest happen. But if you are a good leader and you understand, I'm a steward of the resources of my enterprise, and that person for whom I have to take a decision is my brother-in-law or something, you will recuse yourself. You tell the board that, look, this person is related to me. I cannot take this decision because I'm human. Now, that kind of regulation, sir, is an important part of great leadership. I call it outstanding leadership. Because without regulation, you can't be a leader. And without regulation and without self-awareness, you can never be a leader. Without regulation and self-awareness, you may become a better leader if you intend to improve on the weaknesses that you might have. But otherwise, these are essential.
Thank you so much. We're out of time, and Mr. Wakhlu's book is available outside. You can get your signed copies. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks.